Hashtag delete Uber started trending. So apparently what happened, and what's hilarious is we'll get even into the quote unquote what happened. But I guess what people perceive to have happened and kind of happened, but all of this is just so hilarious to me. I feel like this is going to be one of those episodes where we spend like a lot of time on this and then kind of breeze through 2 and 3. Not because they're worse topics. This just has so much goddamn dumb meat on the dumb bone. It's such a fuck shoe. So, anyways, apparently, long story short, the New York taxi workers decided to boycott JFK Airport in New York as a show of solidarity with the immigrants, so they weren't doing pickups. And then during that period, Uber sent out a tweet that said their surge pricing had dropped at airports, at JFK Airport, and so people saw that as Uber scabbing during that strike. Apparently there's some link to Uber's CEO and Donald Trump. I don't know exactly what that is. I can probably find it in this article. Do you know what it is? He's like on an advisory panel or something.
Well, because there's a Lyft connection too. They both have connections. So I felt like they canceled each other out, and I didn't learn them. Who knows if one is worse or not? But in our arguments, I think we'll show that it
as far as I know,
matter.
Lyft also picked up people during the strike. I don't know if that's true
I don't think
or not.
So. I don't know. Mainly just their ACLU thing.
Yeah, they donated. But also Uber put... I mean, that's why it's such a dumb thing. So obviously, I mean, did you see this on your feed blow up?
Yes.
So you had friends on your feed who were like, I'm deleting Uber and this is why, blah, 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 blah.
Bye, Uber.
Bye, Uber. Hashtag delete Uber. And then they would screenshot their message to Uber. Did you get a lot of that too? Because then you
had to.
Because they're like,
why.
delete your account and delete the app, and here's the link to how to delete your account, right?
Yeah.
And then there was like always a box of like, why are you deleting the app?
Yeah,
and people would be like, because you're a piece of shit that supports fascism. Screenshot. Ugh. Ugh.
It doesn't happen if I don't share it.
Ugh. People are
okay. So
awful.
So what pisses you off about that reaction?
That it's all goofy as fuck. That the more I go into it, it's so goofy. So do you know anything about this New York taxi boycott?
Yeah.
That it was from 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. to 7
I don't know
p.m.
those details.
It was an hour long. It was from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay.
On that day, whatever day it was, the 28th of January. So it lasted an hour. Could you do less?
I know. Well,
could you do less and make a bigger kerfuffle?
I don't think they were making a kerfuffle. I think it was
just cause a kerfuffle. Could your act of such nada cause more fallout?
I didn't know it was only an hour. That's so
This
silly.
is the tweet from the New York taxi workers Twitter account. No pickups at JFK Airport, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. today. Drivers stand in solidarity with thousands protesting inhumane and unconstitutional #Muslim ban.
That is really funny. It was an hour.
So here's what's hilarious. So that tweet goes out at 4:01 p.m., meaning that in 2 hours this boycott
will start.
Can you call not working? That used to be called a lunch break.
Yeah,
when you don't work for an hour. You guys all took your lunch break at the same time. That was your boycott. Now, so, okay, Uber NYC, their Twitter account, so the Twitter account for New York Uber, tweets out, surge pricing has been turned off at JFK Airport. This may result in longer wait times. Please be patient. That's their tweet. Do you want to know when that tweet went out?
Yeah.
At 6:36 p.m. So essentially, they scabbed for ding 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 24 minutes.
Delete Uber.
Delete Uber.
Well, and I think part of why people wanted to delete Uber was because
because people are fucking morons.
No, let me talk. So they still are talking about how Uber doesn't treat their drivers right, which the story that I was reading that linked to then like how Uber doesn't treat its drivers right was about them Uber being sued for or like really falsely advertising how much money you could make as an Uber driver. So like to me that's not the same as like working you 13-hour shifts without a potty break, which is to me sort of what treating a driver shitty means, you know? But Where was I leading with this? Oh, so like the other reason was they were attracted to Lyft because Lyft was then donated $1 million to the ACLU. But at the same time, did you see like Black China and who's her boyfriend? The Kardashian.
Rob Kardashian.
Right?
I don't like how
Jenner,
quickly I knew that.
They both like tweeted like a code with like get 50 free credits ACLU.
Right. I saw people in my feed doing that too. Like, and if you want to use Lyft, use this, and they're getting money for every sign up.
It is just such. It's just so. Oh, it's such a money grabber for them. And you know, Lyft.
Real quick,
me.
Sorry, real quick, just because to interject, I think what you were talking about is so Travis Kalanick, he said they created. What does it say?
He's Uber.
He's Uber. He put out a long post. I will just take this one part out. Create a $3 million legal defense fund to help drivers with immigration and translation services. And
that was their response.
That was their
how
response.
Uber responded.
Yeah, but let me see. When did this come out? January 29th. So I guess it was after the kerfuffle.
Yeah, that was their PR move back. So like, it is cool that like, I feel like all these millions of dollars are being donated to good causes, regardless. But come on, guys, it is such a capitalist. It was such a capitalistic grab at our money, and we fucking.
But do you really think it was the kerfuffle that caused? To me, it seemed like this is something that he wanted to do for his drivers anyways. Because, like, to me, this is a better guy than Lyft. Not saying Lyft's bad. Donate to the ACLU. It's a fine organization. But my point is, if you're going to put these two people in some sort of bidding war for your services, this guy is helping people in his company. You know what I mean? Like, he has kind of this sway over his employees.
Right.
Or independent contractors, legally speaking. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It seems more genuine. Like, it seems less genuine almost to just throw it at an organization. And it's a good one, and it's a timely one. I'm not saying Lyft is bad. I'm just saying,
but this is directly going to your drivers.
It seems empty if they get caught in a PR nightmare, and then they go, we'll match Lyft's thing. If they said something like that, I'd be like, all right, you're just throwing money at the problem. This seems like they're throwing care at the problem. So even if they are responding to a PR nightmare, like, at least it's thought out, you know. It seems it's harder for me to believe you're pure evil if you can, like, turn to seem caring on a dime. And I think throwing just money at an organization doesn't seem caring. This is like a long post of like, this is what we'll offer. This is why we're offering it. Here's the form. Here's the money we've set aside. This is what the money does.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if I told you about this, but when I was doing that women's march in Chicago, right before I left, I like took a break to sit down and like just watch the march go by, and I kept hearing this chant in my left ear, and like no one was like else. There was just two people kept saying it. I'm like, what is this chant? And as I was walking to the CTA, I took the CTA and not Uber home. It was Lyft drivers, or like, you know, Lyft has so many goddamn promoters in the city, and their pink shirts, and they're always handing out like
the little cards.
Yeah, the cards with like credits for a free ride. There were like two of them standing in the middle of this march yelling, "Free ride, free ride, free ride." And I was like,
awful, right?
"Oh my God, this is so terrible." So then, but I really, honestly, here's the thing too though. I didn't fucking think, I thought it was kind of shameful that they were doing this at something that was so, you know, not rooted in that capitalism. But then also, I didn't think about it too much, because I'm like, what? That's to be expected. Like, we have chosen to be capitalists. That's what we live in. That's the type of society we are in. So I just feel like when you do this sort of thing where it's like, yes, we have power with our money and what we decide to spend our money on. That's a really big, like, power. That's how we show our power. But like, how are we sending ourselves spiraling out of control if like our postman also works for Donald Trump now?
Yes, but my point is like, yes, but that's the point, is like, pick a side then. Pick a side then. What part? Because, you know, you could go.
What do you mean pick? Not like pick a Lyft or Uber side.
No,
you mean pick?
No, that's the same. That's the point. They're on the exact same side, And for you to separate them is a fool's errand. And that's why I just see a
Right.
bunch of fools on my Facebook feed, because that's the kind of errands that they are committing their time to, the ones that a fool would choose. It's a fool's errand to pick and choose between these two companies that do the same thing, act the same way, and have the same end goals. The thing that upsets me is, like, I did a whole podcast, my Justin Golek Safe Space podcast, where I talked to my buddy Jonathan Usepi, who's also a comic, who also drives for Uber. Yeah, we have frustrations with Uber, the company. Of course we do. But you know who else we have frustrations with? The end user.
The writer.
You, the end user. Not you, Jackie Manty, but the end user. These people that
No,
will...
also me.
Well, I have frustrations with you for different reasons. But the idea that, like I said, like, well, you know, you know, as soon as Uber Pool came to Chicago, you're paying $3 to go across town acting like a cunt about it the whole time. You know what? You know what I mean? And, like, so when you were paying $3 to go across town and being a real shit about it, did you think that they were, you know, tacking on $10 out of their pocket to compensate for your cheap ride?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, if
You know, it's
if
like-
you care about the writers,
Right.
you shouldn't use Pool.
And how many times do I get tipped? I looked at I think I'm at like 18. Well, I think I'm about like 2,000 rides. I think I've gotten tipped like 5 times.
I thought
in my-
that's why people said they like Lyft, because they can tip the driver.
I have only driven like 50, 51, 52 rides. I had to drive 50 rides to get a sign-up bonus, so I didn't drive much more than that because I didn't end up liking Lyft because I wasn't getting as many rides. But I basically signed up for Lyft because they were giving me a sign-up bonus. I had to complete so many rides. I did those rides, so it was like 50, 51, 52, something like that. Total tip dollars received in those 50 rides, 3 2 tips. 1 $2 tip, 1 $1 tip. So I'm just saying, that's my whole point, is just like, it's just a funny time for people to be sanctimonious when it's like, you know, this isn't some, I mean, I was going to say oil company. Like, I know if you own a car, you use the oil, but this big kind of conglomerate made up of all these things, like, you know, like, I want to eat the right chicken, but, you know, is it a local farm, or is it a local farm that sells to Purdue, or is it a Purdue factory farm? Like, I don't know. It's such our food system's so complicated. This is one company that does one thing that's so new to the market that it's not diversified. If you want to make the world a better place, pick UberX instead of Uber Pool, because you got it. Because people get in the car, they'd be like, this trip only costs $2. Are you not making as much money? And I go, no. I mean, I'm nice about it because I got to get my 5 fucking stars. So I got to be nice to your dumb, can't even do arithmetic face. But it's like, yeah, I am making less money. You're paying less money. If you pay less money for a banana, the grocery store makes less money off that banana.
I don't think, like, I only know that because I'm dating you, but, like, I don't know if I would have known that. But so now I never take Pool. Like, if
Well, and my point is, do it. Be a capitalist. That's fine. That's why.
Or pick a side.
Even
Like, I've chosen the
pick
side
a
where,
side.
like,
But that's my point.
I don't ever want to use it because I want you to have the money.
But my point is, I'm just saying, you're sitting here saying, like, scab, 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 and this, and immigrants' rights, and you're just throwing out humanitarianism by the bucket load. Like, we got to save these Muslims, we got to save these immigrants, we got to save these cab drivers, we got to do Lyft because Lyft treats people better, Lyft treats their workers better, Lyft is a better company, people. And it's like, can I get an extra $1 because I just took you to the airport for $14 and that's like a $40 cab ride?
Yeah.
No. And it's like, that's fine. That's fine, but if you're a capitalist, you're a capitalist. These people are just as much of a capitalist as you are with your dollar. So, shut the fuck up.
And what were I thought you said something really interesting about, I don't really remember at this point, but like the money difference where, like, something like pay, like, tip your, I don't know.
Well, I was just making the point of, like, all right, so
I'll look it up.
Well, I think what you're getting is, like, my point was, like, all right, you delete Uber, right? So now you're not using Uber, all right? My point was, if you go to the staging area, which is where everyone sits to wait for airport tickets, if you go there, and, you know, like me and Giuseppe talk about in the podcast, that's like the break room for Uber, because we're all there. You got to wait 20 or 30 minutes on a good day for a ride. Everyone's talking. If it's a nice day, they're outside their car smoking and talking. And there's so many immigrants that drive for Uber. these people that you want to protect, these people that you can't believe were scabbed against and not supported. I mean, that's your driver pool is immigrants, and you pay a fare. 20% of the fare goes to Uber. So that's my point. You want to make a stand against Uber, right? You're like, fuck Uber. Uber's bad. I have a $10 fare. I'm not giving that $10 fare to Uber. But it's like, dude, if you do the math on that $10 fare, you're taking $8 out of someone's pocket and $2 out of Uber's pocket. So who are you hurting? Who are you hurting by not using Uber? And like I said, when it's during this Muslim ban thing that you're so supportive of, who's the biggest pool? I don't know. I don't have the stats to say the biggest pool, but the anecdotal pool from my experience, and I've had many people who just use it as a user from their experiences. Like, yeah, most people that pick me up are immigrants. Yeah, most of the people I see as a driver in like the staging area, hanging out, waiting for rides, are immigrants.
Yeah, because it's an easy job that you can. Not an easy job, but like an easy one to get started. The point is, you care or you don't care. And the point is, the incident happens the 28th. By the 29th, this is trending. You know what you're proving to me? I put 2 seconds into forethought in this. That's all it took. I put 2 seconds into forethought to come up with these conclusions. To put these I posted something about this on Facebook, and it took me a minute to just be like, just do the math. 80%, 20%. Just do the math. A lot of immigrants doing this. That's who you want to protect. It shows me if you can go from one incident to a boycott the next day to that boycott trending, we just have an epidemic of zero forethought. It's just action, 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 action. No thought to the consequences, good or bad. No thought to the effectiveness, just knee-jerk reaction. Yeah, and I just can never... I guess I just really like Uber. But also just knowing reading more than one or two stories about it, you start to see a bigger picture, and it's like, this is dumb, first of all. But
there's nothing dumb about it.
I will never. I don't, unless they did something heinous. I don't think I would ever. Uber. What I'm trying to get at, I think Uber is a kind of company, that innovative like platform of like you drive your own car to make money. Is fucking brilliant and so empowering to not just immigrants, people, anyone who uses it. And I think that is so worth supporting. Okay, so maybe for 20 minutes they.
Here's the other thing, though. But can we take this like a step further, a way that no one is talking about?
Sure.
So, the way Surge works. I'm sure most people get it, but if you don't get
Uber Surge?
Yeah, the way it works, which I'm sure most people get the basic concept, it's a pretty easy concept.
When it's busy, it's higher.
Right. So the point is of like, in simple terms, it's like, so there's a lot of people here requesting Ubers. And so the demand is more than the amount of Ubers. There's more people that want an Uber than there is an Uber. So the surge goes up. So now you can make more money in that area where the demand is. So the thought is that if you're on the platform, you'll be like, hey, I'm over in Lincoln Park, but in Lakeview, I can make 2 times my money. I'm going to drive up to Lakeview. So now you flood the demand area with supply. Mm-hmm. Now there's supply, the surge goes back down because now everyone that wants an Uber gets one. Maybe there's even some extra Ubers there. So it's just this kind of continuum. So let's do the math on this. Again, people, Uber, this big bad company, scabbing, blah, blah, blah. They're just out to make money. They don't give a shit about anybody. Da, da, da. So now an airport is something that gets a lot of pickups, right? People use cabs or ride. People need a way to get out of the airport, right? So now you have basically what? You have what? 4 ways you could get out of the airport. You could take a cab. You could take a ride share. You could, you could
drive.
Public transport of some sort, or you drive. Like you drove, so you go to your parked car. You got like 4 ways. That's it. 4 ways to get out of the airport. Taxi cabs, even though it's only for an hour, say for an hour, we're not going to pick up people. What would you assume if you're now from 4 to 3, you're already at a low number of options. One of those whole options, a big one of those, goes down. What would you assume would happen to surge pricing at the airport?
It would go up.
Go way up. Mm-hmm. Way up, right? And so people have this idea. So the point is, they cut surge pricing.
Actually they did
They made less money. If they were really scabbing, the scab mentality would have been like, hey guys, the people, that's what scabbing is. Scabbing is, hey, these iron workers aren't going to work iron anymore. The company needs to keep making iron. I'll go up there and be like, hey, I'm not in the union. You know, you're giving them 20 an hour. Hey, for the next week while you settle this, I'll do it for 40. You don't got any options. That's scabbing. That's the whole point. Uber could easily have been like, hey, you can either sit at the airport for an hour or, you know what, for 2 times your money, I'll take you right now.
That's really interesting.
That's the exploiting of a market. To turn it off, they're pretty much saying like, hey, look, we realize that the surge is inflated because of this ban. We won't take advantage of that, so we're going to cut surge. We're not going to take advantage of it.
Yeah. So did they say, that's really interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. Did they ever say why they kept going in the first place, or why they like started sending?
I don't think that I heard anything about why. And because I've even heard theories. Now, this is straight theory.
I just wonder if it's harder to stop something like the technology.
Well, here's the other thing.
Versus
also,
like you're in a cab and you just don't drive.
Here's the problem. Also, that people need to understand. If people want to help immigrants or help, comics trying to make money, or just if you're doing Uber, you need extra money. Either you have another job, or this is the only job you can get, or whatever. No one driving for Uber is a millionaire. So they're in people of some need. I'm not saying need like they're in poverty, but they could use the money.
Right.
So you, as a bleeding heart liberal, you probably want to help these people, but you hate the evil, bad corporation of Uber, right?
Yeah.
Now, am I an employee of Uber, technically? No. I'm an independent contractor. Everyone that drives for Uber is independent contractor. Right. So, what does that mean? That means by default, the drivers of Uber are what? They're the exact opposite of a taxi driver union.
And a union, yeah.
Of a taxi driver union. They're the exact opposite. So that's my point. My point is...
So what you're getting at is that you, as a driver, individually have the choice to drive or not. It's not like Uber had that choice.
You know what? I see this. I'm a driver for Uber. I see that this tweet from the New York taxi drivers say, oh, the New York taxi drivers, they're not going to drive from 6 to 7. You know what? I fucking support that too. You know what? Boop, app off. And that's how it works. I don't schedule hours. I don't have to work a certain amount of hours. I have no responsibility to keep onboarding. I think I have to make one trip every 30 days to stay active. So that's my point. It's on me. I could easily be like if I turn off my app from 6 to 7, no repercussions. There would be repercussions if I kept it on and kept canceling rides. But if I just turn it off, no repercussions. I turn it back on at 7. I think I did my part. So that's my point is like, it's just you can't really blame Uber because all those drivers could have easily got together and been like, hey guys, they could have started a hashtag at 402 and just said like, Uber ban or something. And drivers could individually try to get it trending like, hey guys, at 6, if you want to be in unison with the taxi guys for the Muslim ban, we're turning off the app 6 to 7. Turn off your app. Hashtag turn off your app. They could have done that. All Uber really could have done is basically turn off their servers for an hour. But then again, that's taking the agency away from independent contractors, not employees. It's not
I was going to say, that makes me angry.
Exactly.
Because then if that's the only time, say you're a father of 5 and like that's the only time you can fucking drive and you just took that right away from me.
Yeah. How mad would you be?
Pissed.
That they made that decision for you.
Hashtag delete Uber.
That they make that, that they made that decision for you, right?
Really,
how fucked up would that be if they did that?
So really, Uber, in this case, did the best thing they could have by turning off that surge. And the only thing
honestly,
they really could have done.
Honestly, yeah. Because, best thing, I don't want to say that necessarily, but they did the least scabby thing. The most scabby thing would have let that thing fly real high without any taxis. That thing's flying to 3. It's going to like Lollapalooza just got out numbers.
Yeah.
And they could easily let that happen. The drivers would have made more money, but that means they would have made more money.
Right.
That's to me a bigger story. But also, like I said,
That's
another.
I haven't heard that.
Another bigger,
totally,
and another bigger story is the other half. Is that if they did, 2 hours before it happened, like this New York thing was announced at 4. So meaning that if they want, so that means at 4:02. Uber could have been like, hey guys, we're shutting off the server from 6 to 7. And it's like you said, you just have a guy just trying to make ends meet going like, yeah, I mean, I support that shit too. Or maybe I fucking don't. You're allowed, it's America, you're allowed to not support it. But let's even give him benefit. You're like, fuck, I support that. But dude, I didn't drive Thursday and Friday because I thought I could make it up on Saturday. And now I'm at the airport already. Now I'm blowing an hour.
Yeah.
If I make $20 an hour, you're just taking $20 out of my pocket. I get no say. Give me the say. I'm on Twitter. I can see what's trending. I could hear about whatever. I can turn off the app for an hour if I want. If I don't, I don't have to.
I think I just am afraid of this narrative that we have started telling ourselves and it's been happening for a very long time and for a good reason, but like it's very hyperbolic, I think, of like these corporations and like giant companies. Giant equals bad. Instead of like some of them, I think Uber is very innovative. I think that Airbnb changed the game. Uber single-handedly broke up the taxi monopoly, right? Like it's so these companies are important, and I have worked for small companies and big companies, and just from my tiny experience, like I worked for a local company that a retail store where they didn't want to give their workers health insurance because we were all women of childbearing age. Like, fuck off, right? But it's their choice.
Right.
But like, they're heralded as this local business, right? And it's just, I feel like we get lost in the semantics of these terms so often, and we lose sight that they're still businesses selling to us. And like, again, like that company, your prerogative, man. I think it's fucked up that's why you don't want to give us health insurance, but like that's your right as a business owner. But like I'm going to hold you to the same standards as I would a corporation, right? And like but we cannot lose that part of our story and encourage that in people. Like if your business is growing, that's a good thing.
Totally.
And I think that with the way this presidency has exploded and everyone's losing their goddamn minds, like I do think there has been, that the government has such a bad reputation, and we have, like, I don't think you'll agree with this, but, like, just civics and governorship, like, leadership in that regard is so degraded at this. We just don't, like, no one wants to go into politics, or, like, if you even want to touch politics, you're seen as slimy somehow. I don't think everyone's like that. And I fall for that too a lot, more so the government thing than the business thing. But like I catch myself wanting to pull back sometimes and just be like, okay, this isn't like, there is good here still. How do we root out this badness? And I think as far as the businesses, it's like, we're doing our homework, man, or like not jumping on that delete Uber, #delete was mob mentality to the max. Mm-hmm. And from the liberal side. And I like you posted something where you were like, just because you're progressive doesn't mean you're immune to alternative facts.
And that's the other thing I wanted to bring up is funny. So a buddy of mine reposted, like he copy pasted it, and then like he was like, this is from my friend Justin, and tagged my name, so I saw all like the notifications on it, and then just copy pasted basically like a lot of the points I brought up on this thing that we're talking about now. Basically like, and like what just a total quick sidebar that I should have brought up earlier, that I brought up when I was talking about this on social media, was I drive for Uber, but I'm already onboarded for like 2 app related things that I could probably make about as much money, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but enough money to survive. I haven't done either one yet because Uber's been fine, so why switch what's working? But if Uber just failed tomorrow and went the way of the dodo, or even if just it became so unprofitable for me because less people used it because of the ban, blah, 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 I would be fine. So I drive for Uber. I have my issues with it. I don't really give a shit about it. Again, like I said, I'm an independent contractor.
So you're like trying to say you're not like
I'm not
repping
defending
Uber
it
because you work for them. Yeah.
No, I'm defending common sense and political non-dumbness. I'm not defending Uber at the slightest because I have my own issues, and to be honest, if it died, I'd be fine. I'm not the coal miner trying to defend coal because I need that job. I don't need Uber.
To be fair,
I don't want to be doing any of these jobs in 5 years, or I'll probably kill myself.
I think that's more it. Like that's a more a testament to like you're not like hyping up Uber.
I got no investment,
like, you do not
monetary,
want to work
monetary, spiritual, anything. I have no commitment to this company at all. I just see such silliness that I had to say something. And so the buddy shares the thing, and this guy, the second post down is this guy that says, I mean, I'm not going to say his name. There's no need to like call him out. And it doesn't really matter because it's not about him. It's exactly what you said. It's what it's what's the word I'm looking at? Eglomatic? What's that word I'm looking for?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Eglomatic, when something is like shows it's a small thing that shows a bigger picture. Englomatic, right? That's the word.
I don't know.
This is englomatic of that.
Have you taught me a new word?
Look it up while I read his quote, and then we'll figure out what it means. Well, the quote is self-explanatory, but what it's a sign of. So the guy posts, he goes, excuse me, honestly, they are both shitty in different ways. He's talking about Lyft. Uber is just shitty in more ways, LOL. In the end, you get what you pay for, and you are giving a stranger your address and contact info. In a lot of cases, when you're drunk and therefore more vulnerable. It is a bad situation waiting to happen, especially since Uber doesn't do background checks on their drivers, nor make sure they carry adequate insurance. Now, you do have to go through a background check.
I love that he's typing that through a social media app that has all of his information.
Well, the point is, if you take a cab, they drop you off at home, they know where you live. I mean, that's more just common sense. But now when we get into fake news, they do background check you. Like as a driver, I had to submit my information for a background check. Mm-hmm. All right? I have to submit an insurance card and keep it updated. Also, each ride is insured by Uber's own business insurance.
So everything he said.
Everything he said is not true. But do you hear how I read it? He said that with supreme confidence that what he's saying is true. And that's the whole point of like just Donald Trump lied about Hillary, Alex Jones and all these people, just Fox News, just putting out all the way from bad news to conspiracy theories, the whole spectrum of bad news, Russia, hacking. And it's like, hey, brah.
Yeah.
Hey, lefty, liberal, commie, pinko, piece of shit. You're doing the same thing. Everything you said is not true, and you said it with ultimate confidence.
Were you looking for the word analogous?
No, I know that word. Englomatic. Did you look that up?
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
That's a word. I know
with
analogous.
With an A or an E?
I think an E, but I don't know. I'm a worse speller than I am a speaker. So if you're asking how it's spelled,
to be fair, not to be fair necessarily, but I can see where, not that guy necessarily, but I do know a lot of people who did it out of there is this real sense of like wanting to do something and feeling really powerless right now. So #delete Uber was a way to feel powerful in a really helpless situation. And like I can't bag on people for that, but I do think we need to hold ourselves accountable to what we say. You know, you cannot post a meme that shits all over the other side.
Well, why not
listening to or not, digging into the information and the facts when you're not doing it?
Well, why not say, I don't even, like, again, this would be kind of like a cunty way to say it, but it shows some humility, is if he said, like, I don't even know if they background check their drivers or make them carry insurance.
Yeah.
Like, that's still, like, you're still kind of, like, putting stuff out there that you don't know. But at least there's, like, a humbleness. There's, like, I don't even think. And then someone could be like, no, they do. And he could be like, oh, okay, I didn't know.
But
he's saying, like, they, like,
it
says.
And, like, wait, how did he start it?
Uber
like,
doesn't do background checks.
They're both shitty.
Yeah. Well, Uber doesn't do background checks.
Yes, they do.
Nor make sure they carry adequate insurance. That's it. It's not and you know what? I don't know why I put a G there. The word I was looking for was emblematic.
That's what I was like. Do you mean emblematic?
Emblematic. Serving as a symbol of a particular quality or concept. Symbolic. Emblematic. That's a cool ass word, though. We should make that mean something.
Yeah, I do like emblematic.
So this guy, I'm not trying to shit on this guy at all. I don't really even know him. He's like, you know, a friend of a friend, literally in the social media sense. I don't know who he is. He's probably not a piece of shit. He's emblematic of this type, and he's emblematic of the forgivingness, at least in, you know, the last 6 months. I'm not saying forever, but in recent times, he's emblematic of certain viewpoints getting a pass on the same kind of bullshit that we're rightly condemning. Like, we should rightly condemn people being hysteric and just taking stuff as fact without researching it. So
right, yeah.
Yeah, to me, like I said, that's what about. It's like you said. It's like, what are you? Pick a side. The point is, if you're like, hey, you know, these ride sharing companies, they're new to the market, and they need to adhere to some standards. They need to pay a better wage. They need to offer health benefits. They need to, you know, if Uber Pool is hurting drivers' income, we need to get rid of that. Or that could be the hashtag, no Uber Pool, you know, give your driver a little extra money. Or hashtag tip a buck, hashtag whatever. Or hashtag Uber, add tipping. Lyft does tipping, you should add, you know, that's a good
idea. That would have been a great way to to encourage Uber to include tipping.
But my point is, it's like
other drivers.
It's like that. What are you? What are you? Are you a Bernie?
People are
scared. Fuck them. Are you a Democratic?
No, fuck them.
Fuck them. Are you a Democratic socialist? Do you want change? Do you want communal living? Do you want universal basic income? Do you want health care? Do you want this? Are you a radical? Or do you like capitalism literally 95% of the time, and then when it becomes a trend, you don't like it? You know what I mean? Like, that's this whole election. That's what pisses me off, and now we're just going to get off on another tangent, so I'll cut myself short. But it's this whole idea of like, oh, we need to stop the right. We need to stop this fascism. We need to stop that. How are we going to stop that? That's such a big move, but I like that you're excited. How are we going to stop that? We're going to vote Democrat. We're going to take the people that are getting the same money from the same companies, voting the same way, supporting the same Wall Street. That's the plan. So that's the whole thing of like, that just reminds me of these people that like, we're going to turn over capitalism. We're going to turn over scabbing. We're going to hold people that do business with bad presidents accountable. We're going to hold all this accountable. We're going to do this. Oh, that's an awesome idea. That sounds very revolutionary. We're going to start a revolution. What's this revolution? How are we going to do this revolution? I'll tell you how. We're going to all use Lyft. That's the
I get
the
what
plan.
You're saying, and it's funny.
That's the plan.
It
is. It's hilarious.
But I don't.
It's not
I'm
that.
a little bit laughing.
I'm saying it's hilarious that these people exist and think they're doing good.
Obviously, this is how you and I work in general, though. Like, I just have a softer take on it. I feel like they're people who are feeling powerless right now, and that was a way to feel like you were making a difference. And I don't think that instinct is wrong, and I totally get it. And I think it's. We got to be careful, too.
Feelings don't matter. That is the whole problem with the new liberal, is they think their feelings matter, and that's the whole point. They felt like they were making a difference. What did they do? They didn't make a difference, and anything that they thought they were doing, they actually hurt the people they wanted to help. Not only did they not make a difference, they didn't do anything positive. They did negative. So they felt like they were, but they didn't. Why do we have a psychopath fucking fuck shoe in office right now? Why do we have a fuck shoe in office? Because they felt like they could. They felt like there was no way he was going to win. They felt like it was Hillary's turn. They felt it. Did they vote it? No.
I don't think there's anything
50% voter turnout.
And I think that's why we have progressed so much as a country as far as we have. But feelings are volatile, and they can go off the deep end.
I'm not saying having them is bad.
You just said fuck your feelings.
I'm not saying having them's bad. You know, I'm a proponent for empathy being the new evolution and being the only way to salvage our society and our fucking humanity is empathy and fostering that and growing that. But I'm just saying feelings does not equal action. So that's my point. Like, if you feel like you're making a change, you got to still take a step back, because we don't exist in a hologram. We exist in reality. So you got to step back like we just did for way too long for one topic, but it was a good one, so I like it.
Yeah, I'm ready
But
to
did you even, we talked about this for 50 minutes. Did you even take 10 minutes to do the simple math and think, will this help? Will this hurt? Why are they scabbing? Were they actually scabbing? What kind of company is Uber? Like, is it a union? Is it a company? Are they independent? Like, you know, all the things we went through. Did you even go through one of those, or did you just feel like you were making a difference?
No,
That's what I'm saying. Fuck your feelings.
I feel. That's not helpful. That's not a helpful slogan for your movement, Justin. I think we get lost in the weeds, and this was an example of it. But it's okay. We'll move forward. Let's move on.
Also, I just want. There's just so much red meat. I told you that we might have to blow through the other topics, and I know it's also late and you're getting sleepy. Are you getting sleepy?
Well, it's not fair that like your topic you want to spend 50 minutes on.
We can do a 3-hour podcast.
I would like this to
Whatever,
be over in at least 15 minutes.
This is my women's march. We did like 40 minutes on women's march last week, and that was your first topic, and I let it happen because it was big news of the day.
Well, just bring up your last point.
Uber
is your women's march.
Uber is my women's march. Uber is my you know why Uber makes me
You're a fuck shoe.
Uber makes me feel like women. It is because it puts me in situations where strangers are trying to talk to me and make me uncomfortable. Being an Uber driver, I know what it's like to be a woman, and I want to say I'm sorry. I'm like, oh my God, it's just strangers trying to talk to me all the time, and I just don't want to talk to any of them, but I feel trapped and powerless. Also, it makes me feel like a woman because I'm making less money doing it than most men.
Yeah.
Most men around me are making more money
than
me.
I was trying to come up with something. Okay,
so
final thoughts on this.
It's just this idea of like, how do I want to? It's just this idea of that kind of that thing we were talking about, where it's like, I think I was watching Shark Tank or whatever, and you know, fucking everyone on Shark Tank is like, we make this widget and we take some of the money to help this thing or whatever. And that's such a new thing. And I remember one of the sharks bringing up like millennials. I'm going to butcher the stat because I don't remember it exactly, but it was, let's just say, a high percentage of millennials want to know what the companies they buy from are doing with the money to help other people, which is just a new, if you go from baby boomers to Generation X to millennials, it's just like a huge spike. Like those other previous generations, they didn't care. And now it's like a big care. Like most people, it's one of their main cares. And that's fine, but you touched on it perfectly, which is like, again, it's all about balance. And I'm just tired of living in a world where it's swing, 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 and we never just stop in the middle, which it's like, yes, it's good that we've moved from dumb boomer days where it's like, yeah, Dow Chemical fucking poisoned millions of people in India. As long as I'm getting my Lysol, I don't give a shit. I don't know if Dow makes Lysol, but, you know, they make shit like that. You know, and just all these, if you go to the 70s and 80s when the boomers were running the world, I mean, they still kind of are. I wish they died more often, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a horrible world of no corporate accountability and just bottom lines and blah, blah, blah. Dow Chemical, all the, you know, Exxon oil spills, all this shit, right? That's bad. But now there's this thing of like, you know, now we live in an era like Tom's shoes. Like when you, now you're just so used to it, but think about that company, how that started. Like, wait, so you make shoes.
Social entrepreneurship.
And then every time I buy a shoe, you give wait, are you a charity or are you a shoe company? Because they got a storefront in Wicker Park. That's not cheap real estate. They're making money. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, I would guess, right? At least hundreds of millions. I would guess billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. It's a big corporation that can afford major storefronts that are on a lot of people's feet. What makes them different than Nike in terms of a shoe company? Meaning they want to make money. Now, you could say Nike has Chinese kids sew up their shoes, whereas Tom's gives shoes to those Chinese kids for free. So they're quote-unquote better, but they're not a charity. And I think that's where we've got conflated. It's like, it's good to make sure that companies aren't doing awful, egregious shit. That's a good mindset to have. Good job, millennials. You're starting to swing the fucking medallion back the right way. Mm-hmm. But when I think you swing it way past the midpoint is when now every company must not just be neutral, not just not be fuckwads, fuck shoes.
Yeah,
It's
shoes.
not enough to not be a fuck shoe, right? Like I said, like, do I have my beef with Uber? Sure. Do I think they're a fuck shoe, like OPEC or like BP or like all, fucking Goldman Sachs, fucking
Wells
Standards
Fargo.
and Poor, like, the
Yeah.
ratings agencies during 2008? No, they're not a fuck shoe of that level. They're a company. They just
That should be Tom's new shoe. The fuck shoe.
the fuck shoe. You know what I mean? Because that was everybody with Lyft. Like, oh, they're just so much better. And it's like, better how? Because their copy makes it seem like you're their friend. That's their whole thing is Lyft. All Lyft is, you're a copywriter. It's copy to make it seem like you're their friend. Are they your friend? No. They're a company that wants to bring you from point A to point B and pocket the money and grow. They're the same as Lyft with better copy. Maybe
as
they're
Uber.
better, but they're a fraction of a cent better. All right, and that's the point. I just, dude, if companies want to be responsible, awesome. I'm glad we as a generation started that movement. Do I need every fucking company I support to be UNICEF? No. UNICEF can be UNICEF. Ride sharing things can take me from fucking my house to the happy hour, and they can be two separate entities. I don't need them intertwined that much that if you're not a fucking charitable organization, you don't get my business. That's an insane paradigm to set up.
Yeah.
And dangerous, to be frank.